Hello, you're very welcome along to the NFL Week 12 Best Bets Matchbook podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey. Delighted to welcome the trio. After a brilliant week last week, guys, we went 5-1 on bets out of the 6. And so what do you do when you have a really good week, really? You just get them on the short week, get all the guys back in. So I've decided let's go for 3 Thanksgiving games, get a few winners out of there, and maybe an early look ahead. Does that sound good to you, Rob?
I was going to say you stop doing the show, right? You go 5-1 and say that's it. You know, the George Costanza, I'm out of here. Leave on a high note, basically, right?
Yeah, Rob. Listen, quickly on the Texans. I didn't want to throw this at you, but they broke my heart because some people say it's easier to lose, early on, but I don't know. It just kind of sat with me all Sunday evening. I struggled to sleep with them.
I think it is easier, though, personally. Like, I was kind of happy to get that one out of the way and over and done with, and just, I prefer that to a heartbreaking loss. At the end of the day, a loss is a loss, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah, your sportsbook account balance is not changing depending on whether it was a close game or a blowout. Obviously, a pretty terrible handicap on my side of things, and I knew that very early on in the game when Houston was unable to run the ball. So it is what it is. We move forwards, and I've put the Houston Texans on the never bet again list and just cross them off. And let's not go down that path anymore.
I see someone's gone against them in the little early look ahead, so I won't give that too much away. Drew, talk to us. First of all, well done last week on the best bet, but talk to us a little bit about the NFC outright market. You're kind of monitoring it.
Yeah, first of all, thank you to you. I guess we did you a solid, giving you some solid winners in the NFL. You did us a solid. Let us know that thank you for the information that the Matchbook. That the ticket count was 98% Argentina and that the money was 96% Argentina. That was quite a trap you guys set, and I appreciate the heads up on that. So fun day today watching some World Cup. But it was
an early start for you, Drew, as well.
It was. I was up for it. I was watching. I was afraid Saudi Arabia would concede 7, but they have a world-class defense and goalkeeping. Who knew? Anyway, the NFL and the NFC race is getting super interesting. There appears at least to be a lot of equity to be had if some of these pieces kind of move a little bit. There's a clear tier, at least in terms of the eyes of the market, where there's not much difference right now in terms of rating between the Eagles, Cowboys, and the Niners. And I think you can look at those 3 teams and even say, well, the Eagles clearly in the best position because they have they're controlling their own destiny for the 1 seed. Cowboys needed a couple of breaks here to get it back into that race. And the Niners, they need breaks to get, out of the wild card spot in their own division. But then you kind of flip the script between those teams when it gets to playoff time because there's so much more playoff experience on the part of the Niners. You really just haven't seen either Dak Prescott and especially not Jalen Hurts really do anything in a playoff setting. And so, how those 3 teams kind of sort equity in the NFC market as we kind of come down the home stretch here is going to be super interesting. Basically, every time there's a big result one way or another every week, you're going to be able to try to capture a little bit of value here. So that's going to be a really fun exercise. And then, of course, Tampa Bay is kind of sleeping right now. They're the sleeping giants in all of this mess because Brady obviously not afraid to win on the road in the playoffs. And if that team gets healthier, that's still a very, very, very tough out. So, I think overall, I was very nonplussed about the NFC playoff picture and how it was going to shake out, and were we going to have any drama? And all of that has changed pretty significantly in the last handful of weeks.
Yeah, and Sommer, for you, I guess you're looking a little bit at the MVP, not necessarily at the market, perhaps, but just a bit of the MVP talk interests you.
Yeah, I mean, every fan base is biased to start with, so
True.
But there are tremendous discussions on my timeline nowadays about Tua Tagovailoa, and don't get me wrong, I think Tua is having a fantastic season with almost close to perfect circumstances. He's really making the best out of it. Tremendous production, really a fantastic season. But, I mean, the MVP race is not close at all. Right now in the markets, Patrick Mahomes is close, is priced around 50%, Tua is around 14%. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And there are really some discussions about whether it should be a close race, whether Tua deserves some MVP votes. And despite him playing a really, really great season, that talk is completely ridiculous to me. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, what he's doing this season is just one level above all, in my opinion. And we saw it on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. I mean, that guy was down, Juju Smith-Schuster down, Mecole Hardman, Kadarius Toney got injured early in the game. Basically, only had Travis Kelce as his own weapon. And despite the Chargers calling a decent defense early on, he still dropped 30 points on them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And right now, the MVP race, it's Patrick Mahomes. Then there's a large gap. And I don't think what needs to happen that anyone or any guy like Tua Tagovailoa can come close.
Yeah, like you said, Suma, watching the highlights of Sunday Night Football, I thought the Chargers did very well for a large part of it, but they gave Patrick Mahomes probably a minute 30 too long in the last play of the game. Rob, for you, I think it's kind of a relief that finally a luck has run out because weeks we've been kind of diving the Giants and the Vikings, and look, at times I've made the case for the Vikings, but you guys won me over. I did back the Cowboys last Sunday, and look, the game was up very early on for that Vikings defense.
Yeah, it was nice to get a sweat-free winner. Like we got that sweat-free loser with the Texans. Yes. At least we got the Cowboys to balance it out. But honestly, it should go without saying, but I can't stress it enough. If you are going to handicap the NFL games based off of the records of the teams, then it's probably time to just take a step back and not do that and like not bet the NFL, because there's so much more to these games than the actual records of the teams. And when we look at the Vikings in particular, the amount of times they've been trailing in the fourth quarter this year and ended up coming back and winning those games, they had more of the statistical profile of a 5-win team than an 8-win team. They still do right now. They're the first 8-win team or 8-2 team in NFL history that has a negative point differential at this point in the season. So it was nice to see those two teams that we have classified as extremely lucky, the Vikings and the Giants, kind of come back down to earth last week. And I don't think it's done yet necessarily, because if you still look at their statistical profiles, even despite the losses last week, they still have the, profile of teams that have been extremely lucky. So we'll talk about both of those games because they're on Thanksgiving, but you got to dig deeper sometimes, right? Just don't look at all the surface level stats, and there's way more to the NFL than just the records.
Absolutely. And look, it finally came to fruition. And like you said, Thanksgiving, the short turnaround for those two teams, perhaps there's a bit more value to come. So we will be previewing those 3 Thanksgiving games, as Rob touched on. We'll have a little early look ahead. To be honest, we're going to go back and forth a little bit on that as well. That'll help give you guys a bit of guidance for your Week 12 Sunday bests. But we'll get straight into it. If you are enjoying our content, do give us a thumbs up and get involved in the live chat. Or indeed, if you're watching post-recording, do leave a comment on your best bet for Thanksgiving. So we'll get straight into it, guys. This is the 5:30 game, UK time, Bills at the Lions. It's just a question for us UK and Irish bettors. How much of this will get through? 2/3 minimum, I'm thinking, anyway, given some of the really good games here on Thanksgiving. But the betting that we currently have at Matchbook.com, you can back the Bills at 1.25. The Lions are 4.18. The Bills are getting trying to cover a 10-point handicap at 2.02, and the total is a very high total at 54.0. So we'll go throw this back to you, Rob. I guess where are you kind of looking to lean at the moment? You have a small lean on the Lions.
I do. I think I don't want to take anything away from the Bills. The Bills are a great team, but we have a game in particular here where, once again, it's a short week and they're dealing with numerous injuries, right? This isn't the full complement of the Buffalo Bills team, especially when you look at them defensively going into this week. We still don't have any news on whether or not Trey White will be activated. I don't know that he will, considering the fact that it's a short week, but they're missing other key defenders in Tremaine Edmonds, Greg Rousseau. Greg Rousseau has been, a great pairing to Von Miller on the outside this year. Now we get Mitch Morse on the injury report, their center today, who is potentially in danger of missing this game as well. And it's very hard for me to get to that type of number when a team is missing that many playmakers or that many, key pieces of their team overall. One thing I will say in particular is there's a lot of talk about the Detroit Lions and their defense. And if you look at the season long metrics with their defense, they are very bad. But if we look at since their winning streak began in week 9, they're actually 14th in defensive EPA per drive. They're 13th in points allowed per drive. Their defense has gotten a lot better in recent weeks. Weeks 1 to 8, they rank dead last in both of those categories. So there has been a slight improvement. Now they take a step up in class, though, without Jeff Okudah at cornerback. That's going to be a loss for them, obviously, against a passing attack, a very good passing attack inside a domed environment. But I just can't get to the number here ultimately. Like, I think very highly of the Bills. Still think they're the best team in football, even though the Chiefs have really closed that gap. And maybe there's some arguments about the other way around right now. But with the amount of injuries that the Bills have going into this game, the fact that the Lions defense is actually improving overall, I'm more closer to like 8.5 here as a true number on the game. So I would only play the Lions. We've seen money on the Bills. We've seen money towards the over. I kind of lean to the opposites now that where we are at in the market.
Yeah, Suma, you're in broad agreement with the Lions. I guess on the Bills with Josh Allen in recent weeks, at times he's looked the usual Josh Allen, but other times you're kind of looking, there's a bit of chink in that Bills attack perhaps.
I think the Bills offense will be fine going forward. I mean, over the past 2 weeks, Josh Allen was dealing with a UCL injury, and they were still basically casually dropping 30 points on the Vikings and 30 points on the Browns. And that was with, I think, 2 or 3 turnovers deep in Vikings territory. So their offense is fine. I'm not overly concerned there. I'm concerned with Mitch Morse potentially missing this game. If those practice reports stay serious, that will be a loss. But I also agree with Rob. I mean, that Lions offense is pretty legit right now. They are almost completely healthy. Maybe Josh Reynolds can make it back, don't know, but they got DJ Chark back. Amon-Ra St. Brown is basically at 100% right now. DJ Chark was back. I mean, DeAndre Swift also close to being healthy. That offensive line is legit, and they will play against a Bills defense, like Rob has said, that is dealing with some injuries. They are still missing 3 starters on their secondary. 1 starter at linebacker, and potentially 1 or 2 starters along their defensive line. I mean, come playoffs, that Bills team overall will look differently from now because of the health status. But right now, it might not be the greatest spot for them facing this, let's call it high-flying Lions offense right now.
Yeah, Drew, throwing that over to you, I guess Suma makes some good points that, yeah, Josh Allen has at times struggled the last couple of weeks, and then you just see the points he's put up. It kind of just shows how good he is. And even with the injuries, the Bills are still a tough proposition for any team.
They are. And I think if you're expecting the Lions defense to come out of this game holding the Bills under 30, best of luck to you. You have a brutal mismatch now in the secondary. Because, last week was funny. Bills go to Detroit to play Cleveland. It was just a mess of a week in terms of preparation for them. They're going up against a Cleveland team where their best angles of attack don't really fit what Cleveland is, where they're weakest. So it kind of took the Bills a little bit out of their preferred style of, offense. And they still got, clearly into the 30s. And that was with a bunch of bad luck in terms of red zone efficiency. So the Bills offense remains a truck. And the Lions defense is going to be, woefully overmatched in this contest. So the question about the total and the side comes down to, can the Lions get, over 21 points? And I would lean yes. I think the guys brought up some key points about availability of some of the meaningful pass rushers for the Buffalo Bills, on top of the fact that Lions got a good other line. And if you can give Jared Goff some protection, and he's got weapons to deal with, and their scheme is a little different, it's a little unique, they could take advantage of the Les Frazier defensive scheming. And the Bills do have Jordan Poyer back, who matters a ton. Like, he was pretty excellent. He was 100% available last week, which is excellent news for them going forward. So I don't know that this is going to be like a score and answer back and forth all game long, but I think the Lions making their team total is a good, fun way to get involved early in the week here. Lions, even in comeback mode, I mean, who has proven it better that they can score garbage time points this season than the Detroit Lions, particularly against some of the elite teams they've faced, particularly when they're indoors. And so decent opportunity here to play a team total over on the Lions. And I think that's all I'm going to have at play in this game. And
what number would you play that up to, Drew, in terms of team total?
I think we're going to get 22.5. I think even at 23, if you can get a not so juicy 23, I would play that, as well, because 24 is what I'm projecting for these guys on Thursday.
Okay, we'll lock that in. Maybe keep an eye on the Matchbook betting exchange on Thursday for those markets to liven up there and get deep liquidity in there. I'm gonna pencil in the Lions plus 10, a tentative selection at 1.9, as the guys are all kind of leaning to the Lions, causing the Bills a few problems there. But we'll move on to the second game on Thanksgiving, and we see the Giants at the Cowboys. Traditional as always, the Cowboys are playing on Thanksgiving. We'll take a look at the betting. The Giants can be backed at 4.5, Cowboys at 1.25. Giants are getting a 9-point head start at 1.99, and the total is 45.5. We'll throw this over to you, Suma. You're sort of leaning towards the Cowboys here to cover.
Yeah, below 10, I could not bet the Giants because I think that the downfall of the Giants has just started because they are so crazy shredded with injuries right now. I mean, going into last week, their defense ranked dead last in EPA per play on early downs. They were just getting away with some crazy variance on late downs. And right now, no Adoree Jackson. That defense is really a bottom six-ish unit. Right now, their offense, their best wide receiver is Darius Slayton. And then next, basically, there is Kenny Golladay, who has not looked good at all this season. Offensive line is banked up. They might be without their starting center this week. Evan Neal, the rookie right tackle, might be back from injury. First game off injury. He ranks 81st out of 84 offensive tackles in terms of PFF grade. First game back from injury against Micah Parsons. No bueno. I just don't see any sort of good matchup for the Giants in this one, except that Saquon Barkley might break a few big runs. But I'm not sure that this will get them into the range of keeping this game around a touchdown or so. I mean, I think that the Giants probably need to score at least 17 to stay within 10. I just don't really see that they will score more than that because it's just a bad matchup. The Cowboys pass rush will be all over that offensive line. Daniel Jones will not have too many options to throw hard. On the other side, the Cowboys offense is so great since Dak Prescott came back and playing against a bottom five defense. It's just a bad matchup for the Giants on both sides of the ball. I get that this is a big number, especially against a 7-3 team. But I mean, just matchup base, it's completely warranted in my opinion.
Yeah, Rob, I guess Suma's kind of covered the injuries, and they might just get you there in terms of a bet here on the Cowboys.
Yeah, I would agree with Suma. I think this is a Cowboys or nothing game. Now, typically speaking, we would see the Giants and Cowboys results from last week. And if this was probably 5 years ago, I would want to bet the Giants because there's going to be some sort of market overreaction. I don't think the market is quite caught up to the Giants being a well below average team. Again, I think that people still base their opinion a lot on record here, but ultimately, I agree with tons of what Suma said there in the matchup advantages that the Cowboys have. The Giants' offensive line is not holding up. It struggled against the Lions front seven last week that the Lions have not been generating pressure for the majority of the year, and the Cowboys lead the NFL in pressure rate at 42.7%. They're fourth in sack rate when generating pressure as well. On the other side of things, Cowboys offense has gotten it together now. This is, I echo everything that Suma said, and it could be worse for the Giants defense because Adoree Jackson is out. They might be without Fabian Moreau, their other starting cornerback. We won't know until game time. Seems like he's going to be a game time decision, but they could potentially be down both starting corners, which would be a massive issue. Since Dak Prescott came back in week 7, the Cowboys are first in points per drive. They're fifth in EPA per drive. They're sixth in success rate. So they've had a top 6 offense by every metric that I consider to be valuable. And on top of that, they've now found Tony Pollard. Like, it took them this long, but 14% of Tony Pollard's touches this year have been a reception of 16 or more yards or a run of 12 or more yards. Like, he has explosive play written all over him against an overrated defense. I think the Cowboys are going to score a lot of points again this week. If you are backing the Giants, it's probably going to be needing garbage time, I would say. But we saw this matchup earlier this year. It was, I believe, Monday Night Football, Cooper Rush start, and the Cowboys defense just cooked that Giants offensive line in that game. It was really tough to watch. And Daniel Jones, turnovers under pressure. We saw it last week against the Lions. He's been able to avoid that this year, but he couldn't do it last week when he was under pressure. And I think there's going to be more of that this week. So I think this number is a bit short. It would only be Dallas for me in this game.
Yeah, Pollard was sensational against the Vikings on Sunday. Drew, talk to me a bit about the Giants. The guys have touched it 7-3. You're looking at one end, but on the other end, it wouldn't surprise anyone if maybe they finished the season 7-10 or something like 8 or 9 or something like that.
I think we said that last week, didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah, someone said that.
I'd
have even come up with
it wouldn't be shocking. And boy, oh boy, like if you're a Lions fan or a part of that organization and you start 7-2, you're feeling good about things. 7-10, yeah. If you step back entirely and you tell the Giants, hey, you guys are going to get 7 wins this year before the season starts, they're probably like, okay, we're building something. Good. But if it ends up 7-10 now after starting 7-2, like that is disaster. And I think there is going to be a ton of pressure to turn over the roster. And, that's probably what, they need to do. So it's not that bad, not a bad thing. I don't know. I like what they have in place at the top there, coach and general manager. Those guys know what they're doing. Dable was a great fit for today's style of play in the NFL, and I think they're going to build something cool there. But right now, this roster is talentless, and the few players that I had kind of marked as a little bit above replacement level, they're not even going to be out there for this game. Wan'Dale Robinson was a nice little spark for you offensively, not available. Adoree Jackson, your only bona fide guy who can play cover corner, not going to be available. In fact, cluster injury for you guys at secondary. These guys mentioned it. Fabian Moreau not going, and Xavier McKinney on the IR right now. First time these two teams faced, Giants secondary held up well. 3 of those guys not going to be out there in the field for this game. And so Dallas, in general, putting scoreboard pressure on Giants seems the likely outcome here. Some of the other funny things from that game, because you guys brought it up and reminding me, but yeah, Parsons beat Evan Neal like a drum. And Dexter, who's the other? Dexter Lawrence had 3 sacks in that game. He made that look easy. And even though they, just completely dominated their 1v1s there was at least 6 plays in that game where you're like, how did they not sack Daniel Jones? Like, he's just mobile enough to kind of keep things going, keep things alive. And if it were not for a little bit of red zone futility, I think that first game sails over the total. This total looks low to me looked low to me on the open at 44. I played a little bit. It's moved up to 45. It's getting closer. At this point, I'm probably looking more at Cowboys team total. But if we're being honest, the way that Cowboys offense looked last week and who they're going up against in terms of secondary in this game, can the Cowboys get to 44 themselves? Probably. Definitely not off the table. It's been a long time since the Cowboys had a truly emphatic, impressive Thanksgiving Day game.
Yeah.
I was going to say that is some sort of angle.
What was that? Rob would remember. What was the last time Cowboys really impressed you on TV?
It always ends the same way for me. So it's hard. Last year was the loss to the Raiders. It honestly a very similar spot. I think they were 7.5 point favorites here. But Drew, you brought up that previous game this year, the Monday Night Football game. I just did a quick look. The Dallas Cowboys had 27 defensive pressures in that game.
Wow.
In the Week 3 game against Daniel Jones, 27 defensive pressures. To put it into perspective, the next highest that the Giants have allowed this year was the Lions last week at 21. And the offense looked miserable. So if that happens again, I don't see the path to success for the Giants offense. And Micah Parsons, by the way, not even having an MRI, he says his knee is totally fine. So if that was a concern for people, I don't think it actually should be a concern. He's going to play and looks to be at full strength this week.
No Anthony Barr, though. So how they utilize Parsons will be of interest.
Good point.
And I will just say, like, can Barkley have a couple of breakouts here? Can he, get some garbage time yardage, get some garbage time points? It's on the table. Either way, I think, Dallas getting into the 30s is the mean expectation. Their team total is going to be around 27-ish, 27.5 probably. I think that's a decent look to the over, considering who's, Dallas is, shoot, man. They are probably the top team in the NFC. They should probably be, favored on a neutral over the Niners.
Close.
They definitely would be over the Eagles by a little, especially the way the Eagles are playing right now. I think this is an interesting market. And I think, Rob, actually, the market dynamic point you brought up was really, really strong because, everybody knew that the Giants were try to sell high on this team, and we never really got a chance. It kind of sucks. Like, I don't know. I just wish I could get Cowboys at like 7 or something and not 10.
Agreed.
But, yeah.
But there's still potentially a bit of juice in that. So a couple of team totals for Drew, but we will lock in again a lean towards Cowboys -9, which is currently on Matchbook 1.93. So yeah, from one team we're potentially fading to another. It's the Patriots at the Vikings. This is Thursday Night Football. We'll take a look at the betting first. So we have it at matchbook.com. You can back the Patriots underdogs at 2.34, the Vikings at 1.68. The Patriots are getting +3, head start at 1.88, and the total is 42.5, and that's slightly shaded towards the over at 1.94. Drew, we'll come back to you, straight back to you on this. The Vikings, again, Rob touched on it at the top of the show. We were trying to fade them and finally got that opportunity and pulled it off last week. Is there still juice in the price? Because the Patriots, while their defense was very good at the Jets, they never got going on offense.
Yeah, I think so. As much as I was lamenting not really getting a chance to sell high on the Giants, here you go. You don't believe in the Vikings?
Second chance.
You want plus money on a game that should probably be a pick 'em? Happily take that. The mismatch here that stands out clearly is pretty, is the pass rush for the Patriots up against a Vikings offensive line that is dealing with meaningful injuries at tackle. Darisaw is the big one. I think quietly, Matthew Judon quietly putting together a very solid defensive player of the year runner-up campaign. He should get a couple of decent pressures and sacks in this one. Kirk Cousins, like the Vikings winning in spite of Kirk Cousins being not a great fit for what was really working in the NFL, was head scratching all season long. And the fact that he is somewhat of a statuesque, quarterback, unable to really kind of make anything, get anything going on the ground. I mean, that's the only thing that you really get worried about in terms of getting involved with the Patriots, much more so than their offense not doing anything. I mean, the offense just it's bad. It's not actively hurting them. They just kind of aren't getting much going. This is probably going to be a very forgettable game, especially the time slot it ends up being on the day it is. And it's probably going to be ugly. I still am in the very back of my head expecting that there is a buy low spot on Mac Jones where he looks a little bit closer to what we saw last year in one of these games. And it could be against the Vikings. The Vikings defense is not, they grade out fairly, but not, not outstanding. DVOA has them kind of smack in the middle, league average. And while they had, some standout memorable plays against the Bills, notably the interception that iced it, and the forced fumble, the offensive line for the Patriots should be able to, keep that D line in check, and everything kind of runs through the D line on that Vikings defense. So I think we can get 20 points out of the Patriots in this one. I'm hopeful. And I think that's what you're going to need to get a win in this game.
Yeah, Suma, the Patriots Jets game was unforgettable until that last minute essentially punt return, which was absolutely wild. How in God's name the Patriots covered that game, I'll never know.
So first of all, I don't understand why the Jets didn't punt the ball to the outside. Like, why?
Yeah, it was terrible. It was a terrible kick. Yeah.
Why do we keep it in the field? I mean, I was very happy because I thought I was basically just rooting for a push late in the game. So just don't.
Which is a horrible thing to do, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, just don't lose Pats -3. Miraculous, but there are these games every now and then where you get extremely lucky or extremely unlucky. To be honest, if Mac Jones was playing close to his 2021 level, the Pats would favor it by, I don't know, 2.5 points or something here. The only reason that the Vikings are favorites in this game is because Mac Jones has been playing close to Zach Wilson level overall. I mean, it's all check downs, short passes, like he's taking sacks. The offense is not working well. Their zone run game is not working. I think that Matt Patricia was calling a better game for Bailey Zappi than he was for Mac Jones. I don't know why that is. I think I would need to look it up, but subjectively, I think that Zappi had a lot more play action passes than Mac Jones. I don't know what's going on, but Mac Jones in this offense has not been working. And that's, for me, the only reason why the Vikings are favorites in this game. So overall, I think there is a little bit of value with the Pats here. I think that their defense will give Kirk Cousins lots of troubles, as Drew has mentioned. No Christian Dorisaw. I think that the Vikings offensive line will be overmatched. The Pats can play tight man coverage. They can blitz. And that's been something that Kirk Cousins has not played really well against this year. On the other side, Mac Jones in the offense is my only concern because I'm struggling to see where too many points should come from. The total, I was hoping for a 44 kind of total. It's not there. It's 42.5 right now across the board. A little bit too low for my taste. Otherwise, I would have liked the under because I'm just struggling to see the Patriots offense, how they should run in this game. But overall, I still think that the Pats overall are very, very close to the Vikings, and I'm around 1.52 in this game. Small value on the Pats. I agree with Drew here. Could be a slugfest.
Yeah, well, more likely will be a slugfest. Rob, I guess maybe a little bit on the Vikings. Like, they definitely would have been shocked. I know there were a lot of comeback wins and one-score wins in that run, but to keep that momentum and then get hit with such a crushing defeat on a short week, this is probably a good spot for the Patriots then, based on what the lad said.
I agree with these guys on the Patriots. Again, traditionally speaking, I would be looking to come back on a team like the Vikings off of a loss like that because, they're not quite as good as people thought they were. They're not going to lose 40-3 every week either to a very good Cowboys team. The only issue is that Drew hit on a lot of this already. Everything that the Cowboys do well defensively, it's kind of like the repeat of that situation this week with the Patriots. Like, the Patriots are the number 2 pressure rate team in the entire league. And I referenced this last week when we were breaking down Dallas and Minnesota. If you look up Kirk Cousins' career splits, clean pocket versus under pressure, he has the most drastic splits of any quarterback. If he has time, he's going to be able to make the throws. When he's under pressure, he just can't do it. And we saw that again last week. They couldn't muster a touchdown drive in that game. What I think is really going under the radar here this season, though, is how good the New England defense is. The Patriots defense is an elite defense, and I don't think people realize it. They're giving up less than 10 defensive EPA per game. That is the second best number of any New England team under Bill Belichick. The history of Bill Belichick, they have the second best defense so far this year. They have three of the top.
Sorry, quick question. Is that just because the offense isn't firing and people are maybe not paying attention? Is it that simple? Or
well, Zach Wilson also.
Well, yes, obviously, like the quality of competition comes into play. But yes, I think people naturally think of offense first in the NFL. And it's tough to swallow or bet on teams that are like consistently can't get it going offensively. But the Patriots consistently generate pressure. And that's huge for this game. Another thing about New England, the offense stinks. I'm not going to like sugarcoat it in any way, but where they have particularly struggled this year is in the red zone. They have the second worst red zone offense in the league. They score touchdowns on just 43% of trips into the red zone. Luckily for them, the Minnesota Vikings have the worst red zone defense in the entire league. They give up touchdowns on almost 72% of red zone drives, which is a crazy number, by the way, in this day and age of the NFL. So if there's some positive regression coming for the Patriots, it could be in this matchup against a defense that historically, this season has not been able to, stop opposing teams when they do get in the red zone. Like, think back to last week's game against the Jets. Yes, the Patriots struggled at time. It was an ultra conservative game plan from Belichick. I think he very early in the game realized that, we're facing Zach Wilson. These guys are not going to score on us. Let's just not make some catastrophic mistakes. They ran the ball a whole lot, didn't really force Mac to throw it a whole lot. But when they did get into the Jet side of the field, he took, back-to-back sacks a couple times, penalty sack once as well, got knocked out of field goal range. Nick Folk misses 2 long field goals because of the wind that was in that game as well. So I overall, I just think that like you're going from the Jets defense, which is very good and has been consistently good this year, to the Vikings defense, which is just getting killed at this point. You got no elements to interfere with it. It's an indoor game. I don't see what separates these two teams. I really don't. I think they're very close to even on a neutral, and I think it's a very good matchup for New England all around, offensively and defensively. So I'm with the guys. I think we've kind of agreed on every game so far, but this is Pats or nothing for me. Wish we had the 3, I really do, but even without it, I wouldn't bet the Vikings at 2.5. No, it's Pats or nothing.
Yeah, the spread currently on Matchbook is 3, but I see it has gone into 1.88, so it's probably going to nip in. Are we looking at potentially a money line to lock in on the Matchbook podcast here, guys, on the Patriots? Are we happy enough with that 2.34?
Yep.
I like it.
Yep.
I like it.
Pat's better special teams also.
Better coach.
Better coach. Yeah.
You got you got the short week coach, right? The rookie head coach on the short week. Trendy Rob has to make an appearance for Thanksgiving Day.
This is one of the last situational trends that has any signal that I could tell you. That's a solid one.
Actually, you know what? We didn't mention it before, but Brian Daboll would fall into the same boat.
He would.
And back to the Vikings game for a minute. The rookie head coach up against Bill Belichick. He's been here before, I think, on the short week. So it's definitely worth considering that as an angle. So go on, Rob.
One more thing, Dan. I read this morning, but apparently the Patriots actually spent their bye week doing a lot of preparation for the Vikings as well. This came out to Bill Belichick said it himself because it was a short week, and that's just good coaching. Angle. That's the difference, right? It's like, okay, we got the Jets and we got Zach Wilson. Do we need to spend 2 weeks preparing for this guy? We've seen him a few times and, he can't move the ball. So they have spent some time prepping for the Vikings offense already.
That's right.
It's those little things you can't sometimes put the finger on. And even going back to what Suma was touching on last week about Bill Belichick in the coming up to playoffs or this time of year, getting his team peaking for this sort of game is definitely something to watch in. So we'll lock in Patriots on the money line at 2.34. Quick recap of what we have so far. So we've gone with a broad agreement on the Matchbook pod. Patriots money line at 2.34. The Cowboys -9, currently 1.93, and the Lions we're going to go with +10, 1.9. Drew likes a couple of team totals in that as well, but you know where our leans are going on the Matchbook pod. But insights.matchbook.com is the best place to find all the bets, and we'll have them up by Wednesday morning. And a quick look ahead, because we have seen a lot of people picking up the last couple of weeks on the Matchbook current offer on NFL. This is specific to NFL. So if you bet £30 as a new customer, and you get £30 free bets, but you get a £10 free bet on each week. So it gives you a chance to bet £30. You get £10 bet this week, next week, and the following week. And all you have to do is enter the code Matchbook NFL. That's Matchbook NFL. That's bet £30 and get £30 in free bets. Well worth taking a look at there. So we're going to go on, Drew.
Before we close the book on Thanksgiving, I can't believe we didn't mention this. Last time the Patriots played in primetime on Thanksgiving was a very famous game. Can anyone name it?
Oh, yes. The butt fumble game.
The butt fumble game. Patriots, just incredible. We get to relive the magic of the Mark Sanchez butt fumble.
You know what? If there was anyone who was going to reproduce that, Kirk Cousins would be very close to the top of the list.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, again, I've weeks I've defended Kirk Cousins. There's something about him that I like, but the guys have sent me straight there well and truly on that one. We'll call this early looks, guys. There's a lot in it, so for those might skip ahead to this part of the show. So this is our Sunday week 12 early look ahead for the guys, where you get the 3 guys. So where will I start? I'll go with you, Suma, on this one. You're going for the Dolphins -12.5 at the moment. I think the line moved to 13, but you can still get a decent price. Is this fading the Texans? Are you angry about last week now? I hope this isn't just an anti-Texans and there's some method behind the madness, Suma, because I am.
So there was a legit chance, I think, just based on Lovie Smith's comments, that Kyle Allen might play this week. So if it's Kyle Allen, I mean, I would expect this number to go towards -14, because I don't think that Davis Mills is so bad. I mean, he can still kind of play. And I think Kyle Allen is the worst option for the Texans right now. The Texans offense, they need to run the ball. They need to get Dameon Pierce going. And when they cannot get their run game going, their offense is basically stalling on like every drive. the Miami Dolphins defense has not been great, but what they can do is stop the run. They will load the box, play single high, and force Davis Mills or Kyle Allen to air it out all game long, because I don't think that the Texans defense can prevent the Dolphins offense from putting scoring pressure on them. The Texans defense is one of the worst. They cannot stop the run. They cannot stop the pass. Derek Stingley with a hamstring injury might still be out this week. I think that the Dolphins offense is easily capable of putting 30-plus points on the Texans defense here. And then you're probably asking Davis Mills or Kyle Allen to drop at least 17 points on the road on that Dolphins defense. And that's something that I just cannot see with the current state of the Texans. I think this team might be kind of dead. So that's another subjective angle. But overall, with Kyle Allen, I really think that this might get towards minus 14.
Another step in the road to Tua's MVP, perhaps, Suma. What are you, Rob? This one is, look, I put it in a current price. This is just what you played, and it's a little bit of a shorter price, so it's not an official bet here at all. But tell us a little bit about the books and the angle, because it's been backed into this morning. So.
Yeah, I mean, be upfront with the audience. Bucks -3 was a play of mine. Adam Chernoff released it this morning. Former friend of the, I would say friend of the Matchbook podcast.
Hold on, yeah, whoa, friend of the match,
former friend. Yeah, so it moved out a little bit as his releases tend to do. But the Browns, to me, they're just like, statistically speaking, you look at them on paper, you're like, this team should be a little bit better. The roster should be a little bit better. They underwhelm on a weekly basis. I think Tampa Bay is a team to watch in the second half of the year. I wasn't so convinced of that about 3 weeks ago. A lot of people pointed to the Rams game as a turning point for Brady in the final half of that game, or that final drive of that game where they will score a touchdown. But to me, it was very impressive watching them handle the Seahawks and handle them well in Germany. I think Seattle's kind of an underrated team. Overall, people don't give them the credit that they deserve, especially offensively. The Bucs still have a very good defense. They still have a quarterback who's been here, done that. It's going to be windy in Cleveland, looking at 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. Tom Brady does know how to play in these temperatures. He did it for the vast majority of his career. So I'm looking at Tampa Bay here in this spot. I think this is, they're primed to make a second half run here and get themselves into position to compete in the NFC. One thing I will say, I'll actually like this even more if Leonard Fournette misses the game for Tampa Bay. I think they have way more juice in the backup running backs in Rashad White and Keyshawn Vaughn. We know the Bucs do like to run a lot on early downs, and it worked very well against Seattle once Leonard Fournette went out of that game. So that's something to keep an eye on. But they should be healthy. Like, this is the latter half of the year now. They were missing Carlton Davis at one point, Sean Murphy-Bunting. They were missing Antoine Winfield. They had numerous injuries in the secondary. They've survived that. They're healthy now. I don't really see the path to success for Cleveland here. So I think this is a good matchup for Tampa Bay to get back on track. And I laid the 3 in this one.
Yeah, someone with futures on the books. I'm not quite giving up just yet. Drew. Early week 12 looks. So you save your last one maybe for we'll do that at the end.
Sure, yeah.
Early looks here. Talk us through them.
Well, I agree 100% with Rob's take on the Bucs. In fact, I think that also plays into their, and again, like the wind and it's Cleveland, it's November. It's stupid to play an over, but that they're going to get to 30 in that game. I think the run fit for Cleveland right now is so atrocious. It's so bad. And the Bucs, what they desperately need, and with the lack of just outs, they don't have the superlative pass pro that they've had in years past. That hasn't been fixed. But if they at least have balanced attack, because they can, they're Rashad White's getting 5 yards per carry on the ground, then they're going to put up a healthy total in that game. I think 43 is too low. In the sides, a couple chalky ones. I think the Chargers are at play at 4. I don't know what you saw from the Cardinals that tells you that they're going to kind of go back to the lab and tinker and work and kind of give you a more honest effort for a full 4 quarters. That team quit in the second half last night. Short week from them traveling home from Mexico City and taking on a Chargers team that I thought showed you some definitely some significant improvement even in losing to the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, and the Chargers ought to be closer to a 6-point favorite there by my numbers. And similarly, the Niners are a truck. the balance that they have now on offense and the way that they're utilizing Christian McCaffrey should scare everyone in the NFL. It is a very, 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 very dynamic offense now all of a sudden. And rather than take their foot off the gas and do, nonsense Kyle Shanahan stuff on Monday Night Football yesterday, they kept their foot on the throat and continued to score points. And, it's just everybody is doing their job. Everybody is contributing. And I like them out to about 10 against a New Orleans team that we don't even really know what's going on offensively with them. Mismatches on both sides of the ball all over the place on that one. I think that one could get completely out of hand. So those are some fun ones that I'm monitoring, but injuries and weather are going to, kind of help me finalize some of my decision making on those.
So you've heard the numbers there from Drew. Keep an eye on those injury reports and the weather coming up to Sunday. Rob, I saw you nodding in agreement with the 49ers shout out. Look, to be honest with you, watching the highlights of Monday Night Football, they were absolutely sensational, I thought.
Yeah, so for me, I agree with everything Drew said, but if this total is going to come down, which it has, below 44, I would kind of have the over as a look here if the Saints still have the same defensive injuries as last week, because they were missing both starting defensive ends in Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport. They're still missing their number one corner in Marshawn Lattimore. The 49ers, if they do what they did last night, which is essentially just let Jimmy take like 8 yards at a time, they're going to be a super effective offense. Like that's exactly how they should be running the offense. Now you add Christian McCaffrey to the mix. You have guys that can make other people miss in terms of tackles. And you're just not going to get, you're not going to get Jimmy G under pressure in this game, which is where he would typically struggle. So I think the 49ers will score a lot of points against the New Orleans Saints. And I honestly think the Saints offense is probably a little bit better than people give them credit for as well. It's just that the defense can't get pressure. So anything in the low 40s would be an overlook for me in this game.
Cool. Yeah, I'll keep some of these notes and there'll be leans on Matchbook Insights. Sumer, very briefly, yourself, were back and forth a bit. I was talking about how heartbroken I was the Chargers didn't win. Yes, I won the bet they covered on Sunday Night Football. Justin Herbert, he did so well. That throw to Keenan Allen was absolutely sensational. Then it was just seemed a bit dead. I know they only had 30 seconds, maybe less, but he didn't have that X factor when Chargers probably needed it. Is there any sort of way you can see them potentially keeping going and getting a playoff spot, perhaps? Did we lose you there, Suma? Sorry.
Oh, somehow my sound was off.
No, you're going to Chargers. Talk to me about the Chargers.
Chargers going to get a wild card. Chargers going to get a wild card spot.
I actually thought about the playoff standings today. I mean, Bengals are certainly in the mix. Patriots, Jets, Chargers. As a fan of the sports, I want the Chargers in there desperately because I don't think we should have to watch Zach Wilson in the playoffs, to be honest, or the current version of Mac Jones. Tough, man. I think their schedule is somewhat okay. They have Keenan Allen back, Mike Williams. He re-aggravated his ankle, but I don't think that's another multi-week absence, maybe 1 or 2. So their offense should be close to full strength soon. They will get Joey Bosa back. I still think that in combination with their offense and getting getting Joey Bosa back on defense, they probably have the highest floor, in my opinion.
Yeah, they definitely do for sure. It's the same. We say that with the Chargers every year. Drew, final bet on the card: Steelers money line at the Colts. You're fading the Colts again.
Yeah. That's it. That's the handicap. No, I think this is I bet against the Steelers last week and eked out a cover largely because I thought that Lou Anarumo was going to just mangle this offense for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh showed a lot more depth, though, a lot more kind of intricacy than I thought they had in their toolbox. They realistically were in that game, and they probably should have covered. Realistically, could have won. And I think I kind of have to upgrade the offense for the Steelers, at least the way I rate them based on that performance. And then they're going up against an okay, better than league average defense for the Colts. However, the other side of the ball, where you have this absolute monster maniac defensive line for the Steelers up against this pass pro for the Colts that can't seem to figure it out no matter who the head coach is, and a statue in Matt Ryan behind them, and really, only one weapon that can truly attack some of the secondary weaknesses of the Steelers. This looks like a very, very, very nice spot for the Steelers to get a hard-fought road win, and I think they ought to be. This ought to be a pick 'em in my opinion. So I'll take them at 2.2 and be very happy with that price.
Okay, that's the Thanksgiving pod. Early look ahead to Sunday. My thanks to Rob, my thanks to Drew, my thanks to Suma, my thanks to you guys in the comments keeping us up to date with the World Cup goals as they come in. Thank you as always. A few French goals. Rob, is that good?
Drew doesn't want to hear goals.
More goals. We're good. We're good. 4-1. Good game, France. Save them for the next time. Match 2.
Best of luck to you, Drew, on that. Look, we'll log off, let you watch the last few minutes. Matchbook Insights, check it out. The guys will be back normal time, please God, Thursday night. Until then, take care. Enjoy the football. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Enjoy Sunday. We'll chat to you next week. Bye-bye.